There is no doubt that we live in an increasingly complex, uncertain, and technologically sophisticated world, and we've been hearing about that all day today. Dr. Gary Steger is here to help us navigate a time when the intersection of computing, new technological materials, and progressive education traditions combine to offer rich opportunities for learners. Gary is the founder and CEO of Constructing Modern Knowledge and one of the world's leading experts and advocates for computer programming, robotics, and learning by doing in classrooms. Please welcome Gary Steger.
Well, good morning. It's a great honor to be with you. I have 35 years worth of stories to get into 7 minutes, so let's get going. I think that the current focus on systemic transformation and educational leadership is looking at improving education through the wrong end of the telescope. We really need to focus our efforts on empowering educators to create productive contexts for learning for themselves and for their students. The policies that I find in schools and states and nations around the world are consistently removing agency from teachers, which results in less thoughtful practice, which results in lower results, which then creates this spiral of removing more agency from teachers and becoming less reflective and deliberate in our practice. We need to reverse this trend. The emphasis on data is yet another way of robbing teachers of agency by distracting them from understanding the thinking of each child. Schools have an obligation to introduce children to things they don't yet know they love. That's what's going to keep schools viable into the future. And one of the ways in which we make schools the best 7 hours of a kid's life each day is by recognizing that computing and the emerging technologies of the maker movement are a way of amplifying the potential of each student to allow them to go further than they could have ever gone on their own, that they can do and know in ways and in domains that were completely impossible or unimaginable just a couple of years ago. My colleague and mentor Seymour Papert said that if you can make things with computers, that you can make a lot more interesting things, and you can learn a lot more by making them. I'm a firm believer in learning by doing, and learning by making is a way of concretizing those learning experiences. Computing supercharges the breadth and range and depth of projects that are possible. We're adding colors to the crayon box. We're re-empowering, reinvigorating timeless craft traditions. And I think that all students need to learn to program computers, not just because they may lead to a job someday, but because programming is the new liberal art. It gives children agency over an increasingly complex and technologically sophisticated world. It answers the question that Papert began asking a half-century ago: does the computer program the child or the child program the computer? This is a question that's fundamental to democracy. And we should recognize that technology is never neutral. It always bestows agency and power, either on the system, the teacher, or the learner. And for my money, I think the greatest return on investment is using technology in constructive, personally meaningful ways that empower learners. It's the primary responsibility of educators to prepare kids to solve problems that they themselves have never even imagined. And the new technologies of personal fabrication, of 3D printers and microcontrollers and robotics and computer programming are allowing kids to do things that have never been possible before. However, one of the things that's most exciting about this time is that when the same tools, materials, techniques, and processes are found and required in the physics lab, the auto shop, and the art atelier, we can stop sorting kids into winners and losers. This isn't just a way of helping kids who haven't been traditionally successful in school be part of the educational mainstream because they were good with their hands. This is a direct threat and challenge to kids who have been good at school but are going to enter a world in which they're going to need to solve problems that no one taught them how to solve. And many of those problems will be solved by creating things, making things with code, bits, or atoms. We've overvalued learning with one's head for too long, and the future is going to require equally valuing our head, heart, and hands. I have 3 university-educated adult children. The only one who has lived on her own with a job, health insurance, and an apartment since the day she graduated university was the art major. I'm reasonably confident that no counselor in school or politician would have given her that advice. This is why institutions like MIT have added an undergraduate maker portfolio to their application for enrollment. Because they're not just interested in students who have done well in school, they want to know what they're capable of doing without being coerced, to demonstrate the habits of mind that are required to learn something on your own, to share your knowledge with others. The biggest idea of all my work is centered on the Piagetian notion that knowledge is a consequence of experience. There's no substitute for experience. There's research, a growing body of research out of places like Stanford that is demonstrating that if kids have an experience before the lecture, reading the chapter in a book, watching the movie, they have much deeper understanding than if the order is reversed. I believe that the single greatest problem facing education today is that classroom practice is too often devoid of experience. And way do we get towards this experience-rich learning environment for every child is to focus on the project as the smallest unit of teachers' concern. I am obsessed with the question of what is the smallest seed I can plant that generates the largest garden, the most beautiful blossom. So sometimes we just have a single, simple prompt. Like I ask teachers in workshops all over the world to make a bird. And I give them motors and lights and sensors and microcontrollers and computers to program. And people who have no experience with any of this stuff before, in the course of 90 minutes or 2 hours, build and program birds, where they're exploring all sorts of STEM, and they're downloading music, and they're choreographing and synchronizing, and there are 1,001 skills from the existing curriculum that we could satisfy through an experience like this in the course of 1 or 2 class periods. Because knowledge is a consequence of experience. They don't need instruction to do this, they just need the experience. Children are competent, but we can't behave as if children are competent if we believe that their teachers are incompetent. So a great deal of my work is involved in creating context for teachers to do the impossible. Like build machines that will water plants when they get thirsty. Or make a dress that responds to music or a noise. Now, if we were just thinking this as a STEM project, of science, technology, engineering, this would be impressive, right? But they also made a dress. Right? The entire ecosystem, that when we create an environment where teachers have the luxury of time and a supportive culture and meaningful opportunities, they're able to learn by taking off their teacher hat and putting on their learner hat. And as a result of that experience of learning to learn in the 21st century, they're better equipped to create the environments that we want them to produce for students to construct knowledge. The best piece of advice I can leave with any audience that I have the opportunity to speak with is less us, more them. Anytime you think you should engage on behalf of some educational transaction, you should ask yourself the question, is there less that I can do and more that they can do? So a teacher who builds a balloon-powered drone or sneakers that count your steps and light up when you've reached your goal knows what it's like to be a learner, and they can then construct that sort of environment for their students to construct their own knowledge. Thank you very much.